Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today we're going to be talking about my top 10 winter niche fragrances, so stay tuned for that. And if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button, really do appreciate it. So winter is probably one of my best times or favorite times for fragrances. I know I've mentioned this in a couple of videos. Fall, winter I like the most because you get a lot of thicker fragrances. And this year I have a few newer fragrances to add to the list for niche. I always enjoyed the niche lists a little bit more just because in recent years I found the designers to be a little repetitive. There are of course some great fragrances, but I haven't really added much new to any lists in a while. So with that said, I'm going to get right into it. I do have 3 honorable mentions. Each one I'm going to say why it's an honorable mention and not on the list. And the first one is Italica. Now, this is an honorable mention because it's pretty hard to get. So I would probably put this on the list, even though it's maybe expected by a lot of people who watch the channel or who know this fragrance, and know that I like gourmand fragrances. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, gourmand fragrances of all times. Beautiful, creamy, milky almond kind of a vibe to this one. And like I said, the real issue with this one is that you can only really get it in the UK from Harvey Nichols. It is an exclusive. So I don't like to put discontinued or really hard to get fragrances on lists when I can avoid it. But I did want to mention it because if you know, you know. This is a great fragrance, and if you do get the chance to get your nose on it, check it out. So next one, and really for the next 2 honorable mentions, this is because I didn't want to have, too much of the same house on this list, as you might guess what is on the list from this house. But the first one, honorable mention, is Pearl Oud by Killian. I think anything from the Oud line is definitely underrated from Killian. You never really see people talking about them. And Pearl Oud, this was, I believe, an exclusive to Doha, but I think it's become not an exclusive anymore. I don't know if that's actually true. But this one is a really, really nice, well done oud fragrance. And it just has this really luxurious, really classy oud, woody smell. And I'm not going to go into too much of it, partially because I'm going to be doing a full review on this one very, very soon. But Beast Mode Performer, very smooth, easy to wear. In my opinion, this isn't skanky or anything at all. It's a very nice, well done, well composed oud fragrance, and I do appreciate it for that. Pearl Oud by Killian. And one more, and again, only because I have a different fragrance of theirs on the list. Both of them not too new, but both of them great, and that is Side Effect by Initio. And this is just such a great boozy tobacco fragrance. I find it more boozy and more sort of sweet than tobacco-y. The tobacco kind of takes a background in this one, but this has a really beautiful, like, orange crush kind of vibe in the opening for me. I don't know if other people actually get that, but it smells kind of, reminds me of when I used to mix spice rum and orange crush, so I get that kind of vibe in the opening. And it is actually so boozy in the opening that it kind of feels aquatic almost. The booziness is very liquidy. I get sort of a very liquidy texture with this. And I believe it also has cinnamon in it, which is one of my favorite notes. So this one is very loud, sweet, sensual, very enjoyable. So if you haven't for some reason tried Side Effect, it's a great one to get your nose on. So now we are into the list, and I'm going to start off the bottom of the list with none other than 4160 Tuesday Over the Chocolate Shop. I do really, really enjoy this one. This one basically to me smells like a chocolate sundae. That's what I get from this one. In the air, now on the skin, directly on skin, I do find it to be a little bit more of a powdery kind of cocoa vibe. But it just has this really lovely, sweet chocolate sundae vibe that I absolutely love. It's very linear. But it is a really enjoyable fragrance. If you do like chocolate, this is one worth checking out. Next one. This is actually a new one, or new for me anyways, new on the list. And I just tried it recently, and it's Ombre Sultan by Serge Luciens. You know what? I actually think this house probably has more hidden gems in it. I definitely want to try out more from the house. This is one that I've heard a little bit more about, so it is one that I think people do know about. But if you do like amber heavy fragrances, this is actually really, really nice. And it does become a lot more resinous. And if you did see my first impression, it does become a little bit more resinous, a little bit more ambery in the dry down as I expected. So whatever sort of light sweetness that I did get from that definitely fades off. Very nicely done amber. So if you do like amber dominant fragrances, this is one to check out for sure. And the next one is the Initio, another Initio. Now I recently tried this one this year. It is a much older fragrance, but I just finally got my nose on this one. And since I did really see what all the talk was about with this one, I had to include it on the list, and that's Rehab by Initio. So a lot of people talk about this one as smelling like Spice Bomb. Totally get that, but it's a much higher quality, higher class Spice Bomb, if you want to think about it that way. So if you do have Spice Bomb, you might find it not to be worth it, and that's fair enough. That's totally fair enough. I have Spice Bomb Extreme, and for that reason, I probably won't be buying Rehab anytime soon, a bottle of it. But it's absolutely a joy to wear and a joy to smell. I find the spices a lot more complex. Unlike the Extreme, it doesn't get as sweet, so I find the Spice Bomb Extreme to be spicy, very spicy in the opening, and then it becomes very sweet in the dry down. This one doesn't have that huge sort of change in its direction with respect to how sweet it actually is. And like I said, I get a really strong peppery vibe from Spice Bomb Extreme, but with this one, it has a much nicer, much more luxurious spice sort of blend with it. If you've smelled Spice Blend, this does not smell like it, but the spices, the way the spices are used is similar to this one. So really, really great fragrance. Again, I know it's been talked about a lot, but if you haven't got your nose on it for some reason, it's a good one to check out. The next one, you know what, I don't have a bottle of this one, but I think it's a great one to check out if you get the chance, and that is Chocolate Greedy. I know this one is talked about a lot by Big Beard Business, and that's one reason why I checked this one out and was really, really happy with it. If you like those really heavy chocolate fragrances, it's not like, so I was talking about 4160 Tuesday, that's like this sort of syrupy chocolate sundae, almost like an ice cream vibe. Chocolate Greedy is not like that at all. It's more like a dark chocolate, semi-dark chocolate that is more like a solid piece of chocolate, and so it definitely gives you a much different vibe, and it's very powerful. And of course, with Montales, they're very inexpensive, and I think it is probably one of the best Montales that, at least that I've tried. I know there's like so many of them, and I haven't tried them all, but out of all the Montales that I've tried, that is definitely one of the best ones. And I think that's the thing with Montale. There are some good ones in there, but it's knowing which ones to get that is really the whole battle with them. And I think that's one worth checking out for sure. So, next one. This has been on my list before, and you know what? I might actually make it my scent of the day today, and that is Saddle by Svensk Parfums. I almost put Fjord on there, which is a really nice sort of cherry licorice one, but this Saddle is a beautiful leather forward fragrance. It's a sweet leather fragrance, and what I appreciate about it is it's not a raspberry leather fragrance. And now, of course, I love a lot of the good raspberry leather fragrances, but you know, there's a lot of them. This is different. This is butterscotch, this is leather, and I feel like, you know, the price point for these, I think it's a 30 ml, it's about $90 US, which is not horribly priced, especially for niche, but it also lasts a long time because you don't need a lot of sprays. This one is a heavy, heavy performer, so one little bottle like this does go a long way. Now, into the one that bumped Italica, well, it didn't bump Italica off, but it is another from the house, and I wanted to include it. I think I picked it up earlier in the year. No, I think I picked it up last year, actually, but that is an Naxos. I really need to do a full review on this one. I did a split on this one. You know, beautiful bottle. This is one of the best presentations, you know, that there is, in my opinion. This great, you know, frosted glass. And this is just this gorgeous honey tobacco fragrance. You know, people compare it to Pure Havane. Very fair to do so. It's definitely inspired by that. But it's a much higher class, much more luxurious fragrance, and at least from what I understand, the newer Pure Havanes do not perform very well. This one performs very, very well. I do find it a little bit linear, so what you see is what you get for the most part. But if you like that, you'll love it. So it is one of these fragrances that, you know, on first sniff, I absolutely fell in love with it. You know, it's just so smooth, such a nice, rich honey with that tobacco a little bit in the background with this one. Absolutely gorgeous fragrance, and it is a nice performer as well. So worth checking out if you haven't. Now, another new one to the list. Probably no surprise, as this will maybe be on a lot of people's lists, and if it's not, a lot of people will be thinking about it. That is Angel's Share by Killian. Now, presentation also, just to mention, absolutely gorgeous. You know, it looks like a whiskey glass, and it's very, very tastefully done. And it just has that sort of apple pie vibe. This does open up with cognac. Now, I don't typically get a ton of that cognac note, although I do pick it up. It has a nice syrupy kind of vibe, and it sometimes gives off the impression of an apple pie, and I think maybe that's because of the cognac somebody mentioned, and because this does have really beautiful cinnamon in it. So this is, to me, along the lines of those apple pie DNAs, but this one is pretty nuclear on me, so performance is very, very good. Projection is very, very strong for, you know, 3-4 hours, and it just lasts a long time as well. But it has this gorgeous cinnamon, nice sort of cognac note that gives it a bit of an apple pie accord, and it's very, very well done. And it does dry down a little bit creamier, and very, very good one. So from the house, if you haven't tried this one out, definitely worth it. Although you've probably heard that from a lot of people. So there you go. And the next one, okay, well, actually we're in the top 3. I did take a lot of thought about these top 3 and which ones to really have there. I wanted them to be my favorites, my personal favorites for the winter right now. And I'm going to start off with a new one for me, and a new release as well, and that is Sweetly Known by Kerosene. You know, if you haven't tried the House of Kerosene, they have some really amazing fragrances. I know I always talk about them when I bring them up. Price value is very good. You know, it's 100 ml for $140, and if you like gourmands, Sweetly Known is a very, very nice one to try. Starts off with a lot of cardamom and burnt caramel. That is dominantly what I get, and it gives me this nice sort of bakery, confectionery kind of vibe. And it is, I will say, the opening is a little bit subdued. So some of these sweet fragrances, they're really sweet, really, really in your face. That's not what this one does in the opening, and the opening lasts for like 6 hours or more sometimes. It's a very subdued, sort of subtle, although potent, very strong, but it's not really in your face with the sweetness. It's actually not that sweet in the opening. But it does smell really, really nice. Reminds me of like maybe cookies or something like that. I know somebody mentioned ginger snaps. I don't know if I'd say ginger snaps because I don't really get that gingery vibe, but it does have that kind of cookie texture to it for sure. When this one dries down, it gets more marshmallowy, vanilla-y. Some people, I know I mentioned this in a previous video, have compared it a little bit to By the Fireplace, and I think in the dry down with the sort of vanilla vibe and the burnt caramel, there is a remnants or hint of that, although I don't think it smells like By the Fireplace. It does change after about 6 hours to this really fluffy, beautiful, sweet, much sweeter than in the opening, vanilla kind of vibe. So I do really enjoy this one. Now, as I mentioned, Kerosene, great house. I could have put a lot of other ones on here. Blackmail, I love. Unknown Pleasures is really good. Kerosene Follow is also very good. So those are really great for the winter. They have a lot of other great fragrances, but Sweetly Known is the one that made the list. And next one, newly released, also. Do really enjoy this one, and that is Navitus XL Nuit. So I think partially it's because I really was in the mood for tobacco. That's what I wanted more than anything when I bought this one. I really wanted to add something to my collection that had a really nice tobacco accord to it. And this definitely does the trick. So it has 2 kinds of tobacco in it. So it's very, very tobacco heavy right from the start. It has this anise and gives it a sort of licorice vibe. And occasionally I might even think of something like ouzo, which is boozy fragrance from, or sorry, a booze from Greece that has anise in it, I believe. And so it does it. Sometimes it's very, very strong on the anise in the opening, very dark, very mysterious. Now I know some people have compared this to like Carlisle or even red tobacco, and I would say to me it doesn't smell like either one of those. What it does have in common, the little thing that it has in common, is sometimes the tobacco comes off a little bit wet. And one thing I really get in the opening of red tobacco is a really wet tobacco vibe. This has a little bit of that, but it's not. I wouldn't say it smells like either one of those fragrances. Even the dry down, which I know a lot of more people have talked about as being similar, I don't get that because I get more of a chocolatey kind of tobacco with both Carlisle and red tobacco. With this, yes, it has a bit of a chocolatey vibe, but it's more, to me, I get this more marshmallowy sweet tobacco, which is really nice. And another thing that's nice is this is tobacco without being sweet tobacco, or overly sweet or really sweet tobacco. So a couple of the other ones on this list were Naxos side effects, and that's great. There's a lot of great sweet tobacco fragrances, but again, I think this one is different. It is unique, and I do really enjoy this one. Really nice, sort of mysterious gentleman's fragrance, this one. And top of the list, best of the best, in my opinion. I am actually looking forward to this one, and I do love this one. If you've seen my videos before, you may or may not be able to guess what that is, and it is the king of the apple pie fragrances, Rosé All Day by Gallagher Fragrances. This one is still one of my favorite fragrances. This is one that I keep going back to and I keep enjoying, and it has this apple crisp note in it. It's very luxurious, very rich, very beautiful, but it has other notes in it that really separates it and makes it smell different from other apple pie fragrances. So it has plum in it. It has a little hint of rose. It has patchouli in it. It does have a stainless steel note. I know I mention this like every time. I don't really pick up that stainless steel note. Some people really get it on their skin and they don't like it. So you may or may not have that experience. I personally did not. But just this very rich, luxurious apple pie. And it's bee smoked too. So typically I go like maybe 2 sprays with this one because it's so strong. The opening, it's very syrupy, almost a little bit boozy, but I don't think this has any boozy notes, but it is like, it has this very syrupy quality that does remind me of some boozy fragrances. And absolutely love that one. So top of the list, Rosé All Day. I do love my gourmands, and that is one of the best ones. And I don't think it gets enough praise, enough talk. So guys, that's it for this one. Leave a comment down below. What are you looking forward to wearing this winter from your niche collection, or niche fragrances you're looking forward to trying for the winter? And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.